Unfailingly, human beings pity their ancestors for being so ignorant and forget that their descendants will pity them for the exact same reason, says Harrison in his paper, The Uncertainty of Knowledge. I think that out of everything, this is what prepared me for my journey in TOK this year. I think about the fact that 100 years ago, we think about various ideas, and that would be fact for them, like phlogiston. But now we know that that's not so. I mean, I used to look back at them and say, oh, they were silly, they believed that kind of stuff. But it's so easy to forget that I believe those kinds of things too. What if my model of the atom is nothing like it actually is, and in 100 years we'll see a completely different model?
So our first unit was the Nature of Knowledge unit. We talked a lot about concepts such as the nature of knowledge and the acquisition of knowledge and communication of knowledge and how this is all changing due to technology and other things.
So after taking TOK for 2 semesters, I've really found that it's a very interesting class. It's unlike anything I've ever done before because instead of focusing on expanding your knowledge in one area, for example, science or math or English, it's learning about knowledge in all areas, and so it's applicable and connected to all the different classes that I'm taking. And this was especially true in our very first unit, which was on the nature of knowledge, which is, of course, is something that I don't think people think about that often, because it's something perhaps so basic, something that is just always there. Especially in school, you don't really question why we know what we know, how we know what we know, to what extent can we know what we know in all these classes, to what extent should we just take what is presented to us as fact, the difference between belief or knowledge or truth, perhaps.
And then we got into nature of knowledge, belief, doubt, lying, and experts on this. So that was more in-depth knowledge. It wasn't more general stuff. It's more of the complex things that make us human. And I really liked that section of our year.
Within the unit, the nature of knowledge, we also talked a lot about the nature of knowledge in relation to experts, and we thought about the question, how reliable are experts in the truth and the knowledge they give us? To what extent should we accept the knowledge by authority of said experts? And we watched a really interesting TED Talk about that by Norina Hertz, and she commented on the reliability and validity of experts' word, and that it is not always accurate, and we should question the secondary knowledge gained from them. And yeah, that was definitely a very interesting TED Talk. I took that away from that unit, and now I question my experts a lot. I question a lot of my knowledge because of that section of the unit. I question the knowledge I get. Is this really truthful? Where is this from? How reliable is this expert?
So one of the first main projects that we did was our This I Believe videos, and I felt like for me that This I Believe really opened my eyes to who I am as a person rather than it just being like a school project.
My beliefs are something that I've just never really given much thought to, of course, because they're always there. They're just how I filter the world. So to actually have to stop and think and try to put words to my worldview was a very interesting and very informative process.
Although obviously those are things that I have already seen as important in my life, being able to like formulate them out and talk and being able to talk about them in my video was really helpful in seeing for me what is important and what I want to do.
The idea of levels in knowing things is significant. And in being aware of that, it can make me think about how much I know something when I'm knowing it, if that makes sense.
So this year in TOK has been really interesting, and I've found that I've really enjoyed this course and just kind of the topics that we've been discussing, the fact that it's really open to discussion, and it's a lot about, it's not like you're learning hard material like facts or anything. A lot of it is like interpretation, and it's kind of a philosophy course of sorts almost, but I just really like it because it helps to give a broader outlook on all of my other classes. Like in the first unit, even though it was about, how do we know what we know, and a lot about like how we gain knowledge, probably my favorite part about the unit was questioning like the idea of school and like what a school environment should be, curriculums, and how it. One of the RSA Animate videos about a TED Talk actually discussed how schools were originally designed as like a factory. You're separated by age, and you learn certain material, and you go, certain shifts, or shifts would be the classes, but, it's really structured like, factory workers, and it's basically factory working for children, but you're learning instead of working. And I thought that was really interesting, and how that should change, especially because now that we as students have so many other resources besides school in order to learn. School needs to become a much more nurturing environment for natural, inquisition and natural curiosity, and to help that, and to help students learn how they can acquire knowledge and learn on independently as well. And I thought that was really interesting.
I really liked the idea of being able to have a say in what happens in school, although it's not necessarily going to change the school. Being able to be like, oh, this is something I don't like, and here's how I would fix it. It's a really good concept because not only does it give everyone a chance to show how they actually feel, but it also makes everyone realize that you can't just expect things to change. Like, you can't insult someone else's plan if you don't have another plan yourself.
I was sitting in chemistry and I had this big TOK moment because Mr. Morrison showed us this video by this man named Vsauce, which I will link up here. Super great video. And so I thought this was so interesting. I love the video. So that kind of sparked my interest in that, and that was my TOK moment that inspired my IA. So my whole section on the IA is about that, and how color, how your perception of color affects your reality, and how, and it brought up a lot of questions, such as, to what extent does language limit our ability to perceive and communicate the experience of color? As well as another linking question, how does the way we describe something affect the way we see it?
I had my first TOK moment in music class. That's what it was. Because I realized that I could do stuff in school that could actually transfer and benefit me outside of school in real life situations.
And I want to talk about one TED Talk from the year that I really enjoyed, and it was the Synesthesiac Project, where the guy came on the stage with the little weird sci-fi technology on his head, but he would be able to detect sounds and get colors from them. So it was just showing you, that there's people with extraordinary curses/gifts that separate them from us, that help us, the human race, further understand ourselves. And it just shows that the technology also, too, is insane enough to comprehend these disorders and make technology to make sense of them.
Overall, we learned quite a bit in TOK this year, and I really genuinely enjoyed all the topics that were covered because they weren't difficult to understand, but they all really got me thinking. And everything that we touched on was very relatable, but now I'm able to look back at them with different perspectives in mind.
One of the things I think is very useful about TOKs as a class is that it's a class where discussion, debate, and perhaps disagreeing with what is being taught is accepted and encouraged. And so, of course, in another class, you can't perhaps write your homework assignment about how you think what you read is wrong, or perhaps how you think it needs adjustment. But that's something that you can do in TOK, which is something that I really like.
I think that overall this year was really helpful for me, especially because, well, I'm really looking forward to next year, but I'm like this year especially, I like these units that we've covered because I think that they were really relevant to what I've been learning in my other classes, and they've helped me to grow, maybe even not like technically or with facts or anything, but just kind of with deeper understanding, or at least more consideration. It's kind of helped me to view my other classes in a different light, even if it hasn't changed my opinion about the class, even if it hasn't, changed my whole outlook on life or the course. It still helped me to realize that there are so many different facets to what I'm learning, and there's so many different, opinions and viewpoints to anything, even if it doesn't seem controversial at first. Like, there's all these sorts of sides to everything, and it's really helped me to want to study these more, just look into, even if I don't, change my opinions, just to look into them and know that they exist. And I think that's kind of one of the most important things that I've taken out of this, is that nothing is solid. Even like facts that I've been learning, nothing is solid. There's always going to be someone that's going to have a different opinion, or there's always going to be some question. Nothing is ever going to be fully answered, and that's okay. And that's where everything becomes interesting and fun, because you have these different sides that you can look into, and I think it just has made my schooling much more interesting and meaningful for me. So I'm really happy with this course so far.
The thing about it is I don't have to necessarily come up with all the good ideas on my own. I can still be a part of it, because I can be a part of things like Wikipedia and Quora and learn so much and still contribute, because together we are better than we are individually.
I've learned so much, and feel like my brain is so much like my reality. I think about everything now, and I don't know, it's been a great year, and a lot of things have changed within the way I think now about everything, and